Thank you very much. To ask the Scottish Government what its response is to reports that the Chief Executive of Ferguson Marine is still entitled to a bonus, despite the First Minister saying that he thought the practice should end.
Minister Richard Lochhead.
Despite every effort being made to ensure that no bonuses were paid to Ferguson Marine Port Glasgow senior management in 22-23, it proved, as members will be aware, unavoidable due to historical contracts at the yard. The CEO's contract entitles him to some bonus elements only if stringent key performance indicators are met. Scottish Government has been clear that these should not involve a bonus being paid directly for vessels 801 and 802. Contracts for new FMPG employees do not include bonus elements. Parliament will be updated with full details of a revised remuneration scheme once it's finalised.
Graham Simpson.
Well, can I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that answer? What this shows is that no one pays any attention to what the First Minister wants. Yep. Now, on today, which is the 6th anniversary of the fake launch of the Glen Sannox, which should be clear that nobody at the yard should be getting a bonus. Humza Yousaf said in April that, quotes, there should be no bonuses paid, but there were. Audit Scotland said, quotes, while Scottish Government approval was sought, FMPG did not have explicit approval prior to payment. So who sanctioned the latest bonuses, and why is David Timon in line for any more?
Minister.
As the member will be aware, the bonus that was in the accounts related to 22-23, and as the First Minister said, because of the cost overruns and delays, any bonuses would be unacceptable and shouldn't be paid, and that's currently what the Scottish Government are working on. Now there's an arrangement where the Ferguson Marine Board have to consult the Scottish Government, and these discussions are ongoing over the future remuneration packages. As I said before, the Cabinet Secretary will bring final details of that package to Parliament in due course. But the Scottish Government has made its views clear. There should be no bonus elements in relation to the two vessels. That's the outcome we expect, and I think that's in line with public expectations.
Graham Simpson.
Well, I'm not sure we found out anything from that. You could possibly argue at a stretch that Mr Tideman should get some credit if he turns the yard into a viable business. But we've learned this week that they've stopped work on a project for the Royal Navy because the Scottish Government, Neil Gray, refused his request for £25 million of investment for a new plating line, burning tables and better computer software. So how much extra is the Government prepared to invest in the yard in order to turn it round?
Minister.
Well, Deputy Presiding Officer, the Cabinet Secretary laid out in Parliament in an oral statement just last week the current position, and I think the member was present in the Chamber for that statement, so he should be up to date with the current situation. But in that statement, the Cabinet Secretary said that these discussions with the Yard were ongoing and discussing their business proposition. But of course, any proposition has to be in line with subsidy control regulations and also value for money. But these discussions are ongoing. And as I said before, again, Neil Gray, the Cabinet Secretary, wants to be open and transparent and will be keeping the Parliament up to date as soon as there's any steps forward.
I've got a number of supplementaries. I'll try to get in as many as possible, but they will need to be brief as well. The responses first, Stuart McMillan.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Presiding Officer, certainly, as I'm led to believe, that contracts for new employees do not include bonus elements. And whilst I do agree with Mr Simpson that the bonuses should not have been paid, does the Minister agree with me that the people who should be most angry here actually are the workforce on the tools who have been attempting to build these vessels for some time, taking the flak, the political flak, and being used as the political football, whilst management, which has changed regularly, have received unwarranted bonuses?
Minister.
Well, from the First Minister downwards in the Scottish Government, we agree with the sentiments outlined by Stuart McMillan in terms of his support for the employees at the Yard. And again, as the Cabinet Secretary reiterated to the Chamber just last week, there should be no doubt that the Government does remain committed to shipbuilding on the Clyde and to the dedicated men and women at Ferguson Marine who we know are doing their utmost to deliver these vessels. So we do continue to stand behind the workforce, and we're working with Ferguson Marine's management and board to try and secure a prosperous future for the business.
Katie Clark.
Have been paid without Scottish Government approval. At Scottish Water, it is reported that 3 executives have received nearly £1 million in bonuses in the last 5 years. Will any review extend to executive bonuses at all publicly owned bodies?
Minister.
We expect all such payments to be in line with Scottish Government pay policy, and terms and conditions that significantly deviate from that, of course, cause ministers a great deal of concern. So I can't comment directly on the situation at Scottish Water, and I'm happy for the relevant minister to follow up in a note to the member about that.
Willie Rennie.
What this reveals is that the government is completely impotent when it comes to dealing with bonuses at this company, but also at Scottish Water. Just today, the unions have said that the workers deserve certainty. But the only thing that seems certain is that the bosses at this company are going to get the bonuses, which they don't deserve. So why is the government incapable of providing any leadership for the future of this yard at Ferguson's?
Well, as Willie Rennie quite rightly points out, this is an extremely tough time for workforces, be they in Scottish Water or at Ferguson Marine, or indeed anywhere in the public or private sectors. And we would urge all management to take into account, and first and foremost, the needs of their workforces. We do pay close attention, of course we do, to the pay and conditions and bonus regimes of these sectors. At the same time, we have to have regard for contractual obligations and also market conditions at the same time to attract staff into our public bodies. But we will pay close attention to all these issues.
And briefly, Jamie Green.
Thank you. Obscene amounts of money over the years have been paid to well-paid executives, directors and management consultancy firms. Yet what the workers in the yard want to know is what the future of the yard might look like. Is the Minister or anyone in the Scottish Government aware of any other future contracts that the yard has secured beyond Hull's 801 and 802? And if so, what do those contracts look like?
Minister.
Well, firstly, Deputy Presiding Officer, I'm not going to take any lectures from Conservative members, given that the UK Government lifted the cap on bankers' bonuses when it comes to awarding undue financial reward to certain people in our society. But the member did mention Ferguson Marine, and I just want to assure him that the Scottish Government is working with the yard to examine options to deliver its initial investment proposals so that it's compliant with subsidy control rules and aligned with current potential future commercial opportunities for the yard. These discussions, these intense discussions, are ongoing between the Scottish Government and Ferguson Marine.